Hi, y'all. I'm so excited that you're joining me today because today we are going to talk about Matthew chapter 4. And I really am excited about the things that I realized when I was studying Matthew 4 this week. And honestly, it's kind of funny because we're going to talk about Satan. And so that's not going to get weird at all. No chance. No weirder than usual, anyway. But I know, like, there's two levels of where this can get like scary, because if you don't like watching those horror movies, like you probably don't think you don't like thinking about the idea of Satan. And then there's also the weirdness of like I don't know if you know those people, but like people that run around like Satan, like everything's ooh, Satan, and they're seeing demons everywhere and stuff like that. And you don't want to be one of those weird, freaky people either. So I promise I'm not gonna get scary, or I mean, my normal weird, but not like that. Oh, that could it be Satan? I'm, we're just gonna talk. Um, and I want to have more conversations about this. Like, I don't know, like what the real like entity is, but what I want to focus on is that the entity, the idea that there is a source of evil, an entity that exists outside of us. That is at work in this world, and it's not us, it's not people, it is this evil that is going around tempting us, but it exists outside of us. And that's actually really freeing, because a lot of times we tend to think people are evil and we blame ourselves when we do bad things, and we should deal with our stuff. But we also need to realize that we are created to be very good, and that evil exists outside of us. And that is a really cool thing to think about. And I'm just gonna, like, sometimes I have arguments with myself because I expect the pushback from people, but usually the pushback people don't watch my videos. But if some people may say, well, what about all these other verses in the Bible that talk about people being wicked, or in Mark chapter 7, where it says, it's not what you put into your body that defiles you, it's what comes out of your body. And Jesus is talking about people being selfish and pursuing all of these evil desires, and that's what makes them evil. So if you think about that in combination with Matthew chapter 4, where Satan, or this evil entity, leads Jesus into the desert to be tempted, then you have to see that if Jesus is pure good and he never sinned, then evil and that desire that leads us away, that leads us into doing evil, does not mean that we are evil. It means that we can do evil things. Like in this story, Jesus was hungry, and so the devil came to him when Jesus had a real physical need, and tempted him to test God and use his power for just satisfying his selfish desires. And so it was a temptation that Jesus felt, because he was human and he was in the flesh, and humanity is not evil, and feeling those desires to do things like that is not evil, because evil is an entity outside of us. But we can do evil things and we can give into it. And like I said in the last video, you can do evil things, but that doesn't mean that your core and your essence is evil. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because God doesn't shame us, and he doesn't say that he sees us through this lens of the evil that we do. He wants to free us from that. So that's really cool to think about. And then there are the other two temptations that the devil, or Satan, used to tempt Jesus. And the second one was, he showed Jesus the temple in Jerusalem and said, throw yourself down in this temple with all the people around, and the angels will rescue you. And so what was the temptation there? And Jesus responded to the temptation and said, that don't test God, basically. That we're not supposed to test God. And so the temptation was for Jesus to go into the center of religious devotion and stand out and do some crazy thing to draw attention to himself and tell all the religious people, hey, look, that's obviously the truth, and to do this big show that would make all the religious people focus on him. And I am still working through that, but it's really cool to think about. And it's something that I see in people all the time. Like when you are trying to break free of religion, all these people want a mic drop moment. Like they want to walk away from their church that abused them or whatever they dealt with. And they want this moment where they can be like, hey guys, I want you to see what you did to me. And they want to make this big speech or something to show that God is with me, not you. And that's, for some reason, that's not what God wants or how he works. And I think that it is because when we focus on the control that religion has over us and trying to focus all our energy on fixing that, we miss out on the beauty of what God is doing in our lives. And we're still giving them the power over us, and we're not free from it. And I really believe that that's evil and that God wants to free us from that. And that's why it was a temptation. And it was a temptation, it wasn't just a thing that Satan showed Jesus. It was something that he tempted him with that was appealing to him as a human. It was appealing to him to want to go in front of all the religious people and make this big show of like how much God was with him more than everybody else. And Jesus didn't do it. And then the next thing that Satan tempted him with was he showed him all the splendor in the world and like all these kingdoms and everything. And it's like, if you will bow down and worship me. So Satan says to Jesus, if you will bow down to me and worship me, then I will give you the splendor of all these kingdoms. And that's really interesting to think about. I've heard this talked about a lot, but if you really think about it, so Jesus, he's God, and he's walking around in the flesh. Obviously, he knows who God the Father is and the power of the Creator and all of this, and he's not going to look at Satan and go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to believe that you're the creator of the universe. I'll start worshiping you. So that couldn't be what was happening here. And the word that's translated worship actually just means to, like, they would do this with soldiers and say, like fall in front of them like, oh, you're a soldier, you got a big spear there, I'm gonna fall in front of you and do whatever you say. Because, and that was falling before them, the word that's translated as worship, because you're seeing like, hey, you got some power over me or whatever, you got some power in this situation. And they would bend to the will of the person that they were worshiping or falling before, whatever, however you want to say it. So they were giving in to follow in this person. And Satan is saying to Jesus in this situation, hey, look, I'm the one guy, I'm in charge of all these kingdoms. If you will just kind of go along with my way of doing things, I will give you all the splendor, the life, the ease, the power, the political positions, whatever. I will give you all the splendor that these kingdoms have to offer. Just kind of go along with my way of doing things, which is really interesting to think about in our current culture in America right now. Like, I kind of see like some really big parallels there of what we are doing in the name of religion, the evil that we're going along with. And these institutions and our government and religion in America, they're not denying who God is. They're just also following the evil systems of this world and pursuing the power and all of that. And that is the temptation that Satan came to Jesus with, and the temptation that Jesus denied. So it's really, really interesting to put all that together. And there's so many things that we can wrestle through as we talk about that. So I want to keep this conversation going, and you tell me what you think about it, and let's talk about how that applies to us and how it applies to living this out in our world. So as always, I am super happy to keep talking to you about this. I would love to see your comments below, like you to follow me, find me on Facebook at Cindy Falco, and let's keep talking because I love talking about this. And thanks for watching.